everyone. Good Tuesday morning out there. We got a lot to talk about here in this video. I will be breaking down the weather pattern here over the next several weeks, including the potential for severe weather here going through the rest of this week, along with a dangerous flash flooding risk. And then kind of looking ahead to August here, another major heat wave is on the way here, as well as your tropical weather update here at the end of the video, guys. So do stay tuned for all that here. I'll be breaking down all of that here in this video. Before I do start, guys, definitely I kind of want to do a little appreciation to you guys. Thank you for subscribing to the YouTube channel. We did hit 450 subscribers this afternoon. Thank you guys very much. Definitely appreciate it, guys. Our goal is 500, guys. So if you guys have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, definitely, press that subscribe button down below, and as well as like the video. It definitely helps out, guys. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, and welcome to Weather on the Go. So getting into the video now, guys, we are looking here at the past 24 hours of precipitation here. We got kind of a wing of precipitation moving across portions of the Front Range of the Rockies, and then down across portions there of Kansas into the Missouri Valley here. Some of these areas south of Kansas City getting in towards portions there near Topeka, Kansas, and into west central portions of Missouri, and even back into eastern Colorado. Some of these areas did see 2, perhaps even 3 inches of rain. I know portions of southern Indiana there, actually just north and east of the Evansville area here in the past 24 hours, actually did receive nearly 4 inches of rain in some of those areas, so with some flash flood warnings and a lot of that. And speaking of flash flood warnings out there, yeah, we got a lot of greens on the map here from portions there of Arizona getting into southern Utah, some flash flood watches there. We even got some flash flood warnings here in the mix as well. We even have some flash flood watches back up into downstate Illinois, downstate Indiana, and portions of northeastern Missouri. But you do notice all that heat out there. We'll get to that here later in the video. But yeah, a lot of oranges and kind of pinks out there. That is some heat advisories and also excessive heat warnings across the Pacific Northwest, as well as the southern plains and into the mid-south here with the heat wave that does kind of persist across those areas. But kind of looking more at the flooding risk here, we have kind of a boundary moving across portions of the Ohio Valley here and across portions of the Mid-Atlantic, and that will kind of stay put or kind of slowly meander around the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley and Mid-Atlantic here through the next several days. But looking at that here on your Tuesday afternoon, you can see it kind of moving over portions of Kentucky here, West Virginia and Virginia, and then back into the Central Plains here. And you can see also along that boundary, we have a marginal risk for severe weather across portions here in North Carolina, Virginia, getting back westward here towards downstate Illinois, southeastern Missouri, downstate Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And then we kind of have another area of a marginal risk here extending from southwestern Minnesota back through southeastern South Dakota, central and western Nebraska there, and northeastern Colorado as well. But kind of looking here more at the flooding side of things here, kind of you can see a lot of rainfall, kind of a complex of showers and storms moving through during the midday hours here across the Ohio Valley, dropping some very heavy rains across some of these areas. And as they kind of push off to the east here during the mid-afternoon hours, again, we'll still have some scattered showers, but I think the heaviest rain will start to kind of push off to the east across portions of the mid-Atlantic. We do also have to watch kind of a cold frontal boundary across portions of the upper Midwest here. That's another area we'll be watching here for the potential of marginal severe thunderstorms with some gusty winds, some smaller hail, and maybe, some frequent lightning out of that as well in some spots from southwestern Minnesota all the way back down here through Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, and perhaps even northeastern Colorado as well. That's kind of an association with an upper level trough moving across the southern Canadian prairies, with the cold front extending farther to the south and west here across some of the areas in the upper Midwest and Central Plains. But even as we kind of move toward the overnight hours, again, with that cold front moving east, we got more rainfall kind of interacting with that boundary kind of stationary across the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley, and Mid-Atlantic. More rainfall across those areas from Kentucky back into the portions of the middle Missouri Valley, eastern Kansas here, and that will kind of continue even as we kind of move into your Wednesday morning time frame with another complex of storms moving across those very same areas here across downstate Illinois, Missouri, and getting across portions of West Virginia and Kentucky as we head towards Wednesday morning. But just here considering today that, the next 24 hours, this is just today's precipitation output here from the Weather Prediction Center. They are forecasting, precipitation from eastern, Missouri, downstate Illinois, into southern Indiana here, Kentucky, especially northern Kentucky, into much of West Virginia, including the Charleston, West Virginia area. Yeah, we could be talking about here some widespread, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall just today alone across some of those areas, with that cold front incoming from, portions of the upper Midwest dropping towards the middle Missouri Valley and portions there of the western Great Lakes. We could see some sporadic rainfall there around a 1/4 inch to up to about a 1/2 inch in some spots, especially as you get into northern Wisconsin and the Arrowhead there of Minnesota, as well as into portions there of western and central portions of Ontario into Canada as well. And that is also of concern because we do have a slight risk in several different locations here for flash flooding, at least a 15% chance of flash flooding across much of the Ohio Valley here, a large marginal risk kind of extending down into portions there of the Tennessee Valley for flash flooding, a large slight risk for flash flooding across the Four Corners region from Arizona into New Mexico, southern Colorado, and southern Utah. Yeah, we could be seeing some monsoonal weather, very heavy rains there as well, with even some potential for some flash flooding. And then you also see a marginal risk across portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin and the UP and Michigan. That is also a chance with that cold front and that upper level trough moving in with some of that moisture. Yeah, you could be seeing a chance for at least a 5% chance of flash flooding in isolated instances in those locations as well. But even as we move into tomorrow here on your Wednesday time frame, again, that stationary boundary is going to remain in place across the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and Tennessee Valley. Again, we got these spokes of energy moving through this boundary here, right along this boundary from west to east, and that will bring shower and storm chances, and again, reintroduce that lower end threat for some severe weather across portions here of the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and back westward here into the lower Missouri Valley. Even a smaller marginal risk here across southwestern Nebraska, northwestern Kansas, northeastern Colorado, and far southeastern Wyoming here as well as we head into Wednesday. But again, the higher threat is going to be mainly for some flash flooding again as we have more heavy rain moving across the Ohio Valley as we move into Wednesday afternoon, and that just continues here into Wednesday evening, starting to kind of lighten up a little bit in the Ohio Valley, but still some scattered showers and storms cannot be ruled out. I think the heavier rain at this point will kind of be moving down towards the Tennessee Valley and the Mid-Atlantic here, kind of in association with that kind of cold front and that upper level trough kind of spinning across portions of the southern Canadian prairies. But then even as we move into Thursday morning, again, we have another spoke of energy pushing in from the west, and again, another complex of showers and storms spreading across portions of the Missouri Valley into the Central Plains here. And the good news is, however, from this is that portions there of Kansas and back into Colorado and southern Nebraska here, and perhaps far northern in northeastern Oklahoma might be seeing some beneficial rains from this as we go into Thursday morning. But yeah, this is as we head into the Wednesday time frame here. You can see again those same areas across the Ohio Valley here in the blues and pinks and purples there. Yeah, you're seeing rainfall amounts here from about 1 inch to about 2 inches of rain, especially into West Virginia, around the Charleston, West Virginia area, getting back towards Lexington, Kentucky, Louisville, Kentucky, as well as the Evansville, Indiana area, as well as southern portions there of Ohio. And then we still got that monsoonal weather as well, feeding in there across the Four Corners region, areas from Arizona, New Mexico, southern and eastern Colorado, getting into southern Utah. Some of those areas will be averaging around 3/4 of an inch to an inch of rain across those areas as well. And again, the Weather Prediction Center is forecasting a moderate risk for flash flooding across especially West Virginia, including the Charleston, West Virginia area as we move into that Wednesday time frame. And again, moderate risks for flash flooding are pretty uncommon, so this is pretty serious, guys. At least a 40% chance of flash flooding across those areas, and then a large slight risk for flash flooding, including the entire state of Kentucky, much of northern and northeastern Tennessee, downstate Illinois, Indiana, as well as southeastern Missouri as well, getting up into southwestern portions there, Pittsburgh, including the southwestern portions there of Pennsylvania, and then southeastern portions there of Colorado, northeastern New Mexico, a slight risk as well of flash flooding, as well as Arizona there. So lots of flash flooding potential as we head into that Wednesday time frame. And then the beat just goes on here into Thursday. We got that kind of stationary boundary, a couple cold fronts moving down from the south, and again setting up with that moisture here moving in from the Gulf of Mexico and from the southeast. And again, we have lots of heavy rainfall potential moving into that Thursday time frame here as well. Again, we have a lot of marginal risk for severe weather here into that Wednesday, Thursday time frame here across the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic, and then back into the Central Plains as well. So moving into Thursday afternoon, you can see a lot of heavy rainfall across the Illinois Valley, getting back through the middle Missouri Valley here, the Central Plains where they desperately needed across Kansas, getting into Oklahoma here potentially, especially northern Oklahoma and northwestern Oklahoma, and then getting in towards the Front Range of the Rockies. That'll kind of stretch out with the rainfall, stretching from portions of the Four Corners all the way through the Central Plains here and toward the Ohio Valley. Again, heavy rainfall is expected across much of the Ohio Valley as we head into Thursday afternoon here. Probably be much of a good day to stay inside across these areas, and that'll just continue into the overnight hours, kind of a stretched out zone along that stationary boundary here of just some heavy rainfall, periodic thunderstorms as we move towards that Friday morning time frame. Again, starting to sag a little farther to the south, so areas in northern Oklahoma, portions of the panhandle of Texas might start to see some more beneficial rains across those areas as we head towards that Friday time frame. But just looking at Thursday here, guys, look at that stretched out boundary. Yeah, widespread here, 1 to 3 inches of rainfall from the Ohio Valley back westward towards portions of the central and western plains, getting into the front range of the Rockies here. Yeah, some heavy rainfall and some beneficial rains as well. So this is not all bad news. But day after day after day of just heavy rainfall across the same areas definitely does lead to the potential, again, even as we head towards Friday, for an elongated area from west to east across the the mid-south, the Tennessee Valley, and even in towards portions there of Oklahoma and the Texas Panhandle there of a slight risk for flash flooding, and then an uncommon area of a moderate risk for flash flooding across southeastern Colorado and western Kansas, perhaps the Oklahoma Panhandle and extreme northeastern New Mexico as we kind of move into that time frame, and then another slight risk for flash flooding down into Arizona and southwestern New Mexico on that Friday time frame. And again, the same thing holds true for Saturday. So even going into the weekend, again, another kind of elongated area from the Carolinas all the way back through portions of Arkansas, getting back here into Kansas, northern Oklahoma, and then toward the Four Corners in that monsoon area. Yeah, some slight risk for flash flooding here is possible across some of these areas moving into even Saturday and perhaps even Sunday as well. But putting it all together, guys, over the next 6 to 7 days out there, yeah, a lot of heavy rainfall where you see the reds out there. Yeah, we're talking 3 inches of rain where you see kind of the lighter oranges, that's 4 inches, and then getting above that across portions there of West Virginia into Kentucky, northern and eastern portions there of Tennessee, getting into perhaps downstate Indiana. Some of these areas could be seeing locally half a foot of rain. We could be talking about 6 inches of rain, and there may even be some localized areas that see even higher amounts potentially across these areas that could be over 8 inches of rain. So definitely a lot of rain. But what you do notice is the Pacific Northwest, the northern plains, as well as much of Texas does remain dry, and that's just due to the drought here, as well as the ongoing heat with that heat wave continuing across some of these areas as we move here towards the beginning of August. And considering the temperatures out there here, looking at the temperature department, the temperature side of things, we got the upper level trough spinning across the southern Canadian prairies. We got that ridge starting to build back westward across portions there of the west coast here, and then kind of moving more zonal flow across portions of the southern and southeastern United States here on your Tuesday. And again, this is what you can expect for temperatures out there this afternoon. We could have temperatures widespread 105s across portions there of Oklahoma, North Texas here, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 103, 107 in Tulsa, 106 in Wichita Falls, and 105 in Oklahoma City. Widespread 100s even across portions there into Washington State, Oregon State, getting down through California and Nevada as we get into the afternoon as well. And that all continues. We got that kind of amplification of that ridge across the western United States as we go into Wednesday, and you see that trough starting to move a little bit farther to the east here across Ontario, getting into the upper Great Lakes as we move into the midweek period, and that will bring more heat across portions there of the West Coast, as well as down across the Mid-South into Texas as well. In Oklahoma, widespread 100s to 105s again as we move into Wednesday, and the same holds true for Thursday. However, I do start to think that as the cooler weather starts to move a little farther south, that cold front starts to sag southward a little bit more. We have some of that rainfall kind of infiltrating portions of the Central Plains. We'll start to cool off a little bit into Oklahoma with some mid and upper 90s, but and even still some lower hundreds in Texas. But they'll take that after some widespread 105s to 110s perhaps in some of these areas over the past few weeks. And again, look at all that heat across portions of Washington State getting into Oregon State. You look at that 111 in some of these areas, 109, 110. Yeah, a lot of heat across the West Coast there. But you do notice the cooler weather on Thursday, July 28th across portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, much of the upper Midwest really here, behind that kind kind of, with that trough and behind that cold front as we move into late week. A lot of these temperatures will be, very pleasant for this time of year. Mid and upper 70s, some lower 80s out there, lots of sunshine. Very nice recipe here for some nice middle and end of summertime weather as we move into that region here late in the week. And that all continues as we even head into Friday as well. A lot of heat building out west, guys. A major heat wave will continue across those areas. And again, we still got those hundreds here, even into portions of Texas along the, the Gulf Coast and getting into portions of the Carolinas as well. But you notice to the north, you notice there's a lot of cooler weather, and that will just continue into Friday as well. Now, looking a little bit farther, longer range, the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center going into the last day here in July, and then going into that first few days here of August from July 31st through August 4th. The Climate Prediction Center has a certain, certainty above normal temperatures favored across portions of the Dakotas, getting into portions there of the northern plains, the Midwest, and kind of extending across the entire contiguous United States here, in exception to some of those monsoonal areas into, Arizona, Southern California, perhaps even southwestern New Mexico as well. And underneath that ridge, as we see kind of a heat wave start to build again, we're seeing likely below normal precipitation anomalies for much of the, central and southern plains, where we do have that monsoonal weather, amplifying a little bit farther across the west coast there into the Intermountain West and the desert Southwest. They're favoring, above normal precipitation across much of Nevada, getting into Utah there in Arizona and much of the west coast as well, and even that above normal precipitation across the Ohio Valley with all that heavy rain here this week kind of being favored into the first few days here of August as well. And even looking longer than that, going all the way through August 8th, we got a very large ridge that looks to, impact much of the United States, especially east of the Rockies, where we will be, baking under that high heat as we move into the first week or so, and even into the second week perhaps here in August. A little bit cooler off into some of those, areas receiving that monsoonal rainfall here. Cooler even into Alaska as well as the, Pacific Northwest, as we kind of have a shortwave trough kind of, starting to develop across those areas as well, with all this heat kind of pushing eastward. And again, underneath that ridge, do not expect much rainfall here. Likely below normal precipitation for much of the eastern 2/3 of the country. And with that monsoon weather and some of that shortwave troughing here off to the west, you can expect some above normal precipitation going through that August 8th timeframe as well. So kind of putting this all together, I kind of want to break this down a little bit more for you guys. We do kind of have a 7-day change here and kind of showing you the ocean temperatures here. You can see some blues showing up across the western side here of the United States off the coast here into the eastern Pacific. And that is kind of, a little bit important because we actually have a lot of warmer waters well to the north of Hawaii and west-northwest of Hawaii. And why the cooler waters off of the west coast are important is because that will actually start to amplify a little bit of a trough as we move into early and perhaps even middle August. And as you have a trough developing across the Pacific Northwest, that actually will force that ridge to start to kind of, collapse on itself and push off to the east across the central and eastern United States as we head towards the early, first and second week here in August. So let's kind of put this together for you guys and show you what I mean. We got that ridge across portions there just south of the Aleutian Islands, getting all the way down here to portions there of the Pacific Northwest. We got those cooler anomalies across, the northern plains, getting into the Midwest, Great Lakes region, and even New England with all that warmer weather to the south. That's with that shortwave trough here today. But even as we get towards late week, that still continues with below normal temperature anomalies across much of the northern U.S. here with some of that warmer weather to the south. We still got that ridge across portions there of, southwestern Canada and into much of the Pacific Northwest here into even that Thursday timeframe, July 28th. And then as we kind of move towards the weekend here, the final couple days of the month of July, we actually start to see a little bit of a change here. That Saturday into Sunday this coming weekend is actually kind of that transition period of that warmer weather across the Pacific Northwest and some of the cooler anomalies in the middle of the country here. And as we go into next week here towards that Monday time frame, August 1st, as we turn the calendar to August, you can definitely see a lot of these temperature anomalies starting to kind of collapse on themselves and push to the east across the northern plains, and that really expands as we get towards that August 2nd and even 3rd time frame across portions of the upper Midwest here, the central plains, northern plains, and much of the eastern 2/3 or even half of the country there as we move towards the first week or so of August. And that actually may continue toward the middle of August as well. And kind of looking at the European forecast models of what we can expect for temperatures at the surface here with this occurring kind of in the upper levels with that ridging building to the east, we could be expecting some major heat out there, guys. 90s to hundreds across much of the United States here, especially especially east of the Rockies here. Some cooler anomalies at first across New England, but I do think it'll really start to build more eastward here as we go in towards that time frame into early August as well. And also looking kind of at the jet stream as well here, very important that storm track looks to actually move up from north, from south to north. So the active storm track does look to set up across much of southern Canada. And as depending on where this, ridging kind of sets up across the United States here, which looks to set up across the middle of the United States here in the central and southern plains yet again as we get into early and middle August. This will actually send the storm track to the north, and the eastern fringes here, the northeastern and eastern fringes here of the ridge will be very important to see where we see that storm track set up here in the United States, whether it'll be across the Midwest and the western Great Lakes, or it'll be a little farther to the east across the eastern Great Lakes and New England here, remains to be seen. But we'll continue to watch it here as we get into that time frame, because we are actually starting to see some anomalies continuing to show up on the climate forecasting systems model, with some higher instability building as we get into early August, and that really starts to amplify as we get towards that second and third time frame here of August, and even that third and fourth day of August here as well, with a lot of instability starting to build across the upper Midwest here, the middle Missouri Valley, and perhaps the southern Great Lakes as we get towards that first week in August. But kind of turning your attention here to the tropical weather forecast update here, we got some interesting things looking here across the eastern Pacific Basin. We got a 10% chance here of development with that little, yellow area here in the eastern Pacific over the next 5 days. But behind that here, to this east-southeast of that, in the red shaded area with the X there, that is actually 100% chance. That is a guaranteed development of a storm here within the next 48 hours, if not the next few days, as you're right off the southwestern Mexican coast here and pushing more off to the west-northwest in the coming days as well. And I'll show you that here on the satellite imagery. You can see kind of that smaller system here to the north and west there, kind of not too organized, pretty compact, but it doesn't have a lot to work with. A lot more structure here to the south and east with that storm that's with that kind of open wave that's going to become a storm, and then eventually probably a hurricane once again in the eastern Pacific. Again, that'll be moving off here to the west northwest with time. And looking kind of at the sea surface temperatures and kind of the favorability with this, it's in an area where we have a lot of favorable warmer waters across southwestern Mexican coast, getting across the eastern Pacific Basin here. But as it kind of pushes up to the northwest here, west of the Baja of California, start to lose its luster a little bit as we kind of move towards the first or second week in August here, as it kind of develops and moves to the northwest, which will make it kind of start to weaken as well. So kind of looking here at the bottom center of your screen, you can see a little bit of some wind action here down there. That is that storm that I was talking about that has that guaranteed 100% chance of development the next 48 hours, if not the next few days, and that'll continue to push off to the north and west here, kind of more of a tropical depression, tropical storm as we get towards the late week period, according to the European forecast model. But as we get in towards the weekend time frame, Saturday, Sunday, and perhaps even into early next week, you can see this really deepen to around a 991 millibar low pressure system. So a hurricane, potentially even at least a category 2 hurricane as we get towards that time frame as well, and then maintaining 993 millibar low pressure center strength as we even move into next week on Monday and Tuesday as well, heading into early August here. But as it kind of approaches the cooler waters, it'll start to kind of lose its luster a little bit after that as we get towards the the first or second week here in August. But looking at climatologically across the eastern Pacific Basin, we're in that favorable time zone where it really peaks across early August here, and it kind of stays that way through much of fall. So we're really kind of favorably in that time frame for some tropical development across the eastern Pacific Basin. And you can see that July 21st through the 31st here, kind of the origin points of where these systems develop, and it's right on par with that southwest here of the Mexican coast and west here of the Central Americas, and these systems usually push to the west across the eastern Pacific Basin, so that is something to note as well. And that just continues. A lot more of these dots, those red dots show up. That is kind of the origin points for these tropical entities to start to build as we move here into August 1st through the August 10th time frame across the eastern Pacific Basin as well. But looking across the Atlantic, the Gulf here, and the Caribbean, we're not seeing any tropical cyclones, no tropical entities anytime soon. Again, the next 5 days very quiet across across much of the Atlantic. Looking at kind of the satellite view of this, we still got that large high pressure system spinning clockwise across the central Atlantic, and that's really been steering the current with the storms very profoundly over the last several weeks, and that looks to continue as we kind of move towards the next few days as well. We do have a little bit more of a robust wave coming off the western African coast here, moving across the southeastern Atlantic here, but this is looking to kind of move off across the southern Atlantic basin and then perhaps into portions of South America, as it really doesn't have a chance to move to the north and west into the open waters of the Caribbean or the Gulf or anything like that, as that high pressure system is really starting to continue to kind of steer this flow across the South America, the Central Americas, and that's why all of the active weather has been across the Eastern Pacific Basin as well. But kind of looking at the climate forecasting systems model for kind of precipitation anomalies across the Gulf and portions here of the Western Atlantic, we see some anomalies across the Central and Southern Gulf as we kind of open the book towards the first day or so of August. But as we kind of move into the first full week in August, you can start to see a little bit more anomalies for precipitation starting to show up across virtually the entire Gulf and towards maybe the Texas coast here, towards the Louisiana coast perhaps, or even the east coast there of Mexico. And that is kind of a little bit of a concern of potentially maybe some tropical rains. We may be seeing a storm at this time, but I do really think that the storm action will kind of hold off across the Gulf, Caribbean, and Atlantic. I think it's more of a tropical rain setup than anything else, but we'll still continue to watch it as we go through August here. A lot of things, a lot of moving parts kind of intertwined with all this. We'll definitely kind of keep you up to speed with this as we get a little bit farther. Well, thank you guys for watching my video. I know it was a long video here. Did want to give you all the updates that you deserve to know. Thank you guys for watching the video. Again, remember to like my video, give me a thumbs up, leave any comments, questions, and concerns below, and most importantly, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, guys. The goal is 500. Thank you guys for subscribing before, as well as the new people here watching the video. Again, thank you guys for watching the video as well, and be sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Weather Wednesdays, guys, that is coming up here in the next couple of days, and we'll be doing that Wednesday afternoon about 5:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Don't want to miss that, guys. Turn on all your notifications for that. We'll be talking longer range weather forecast at that time for you guys. But right now, guys, thank you for all the live streams and all the subscribers out there. Again, I appreciate all that as well, and I hope everybody has a great Tuesday out there, and I'll see you in the next video.